Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into something that I think perfectly captures what makes Jungkook such an exceptional artist, and that's looking back at what Charlie Puth said about working with him on their collaboration Left and Right back in 2022. Charlie Puth, who is an incredibly accomplished artist and producer in his own right, someone who has worked with numerous major artists throughout his career, made a very specific and telling comment about Jungkook, saying that Jungkook surprised me, and I think unpacking what he meant by that, understanding the context of that statement, and exploring why a seasoned professional like Charlie Puth would be surprised by working with someone, tells us so much about Jungkook's professionalism, talent, and approach to music. We're going to explore the full context of this quote, what specifically surprised Charlie about working with Jungkook, what this reveals about both artists, and why this collaboration and Charlie's reaction to it represents something significant in terms of cross-cultural musical collaboration and professional excellence. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that like, drop a comment telling me your favorite moment from Left and Right, and let's explore what Charlie Puth really meant when he said Jungkook surprised him. Let's start by setting the context for this collaboration and this quote. Left and Right featuring Jungkook of BTS was released in June 2022 as a single from Charlie Puth's third studio album. At the time this collaboration was announced and released, it represented something quite significant in the music industry. Charlie Puth was an established American pop artist with multiple hit songs, Grammy nominations, and a reputation as both a talented vocalist and a skilled producer and songwriter. Jungkook was obviously a member of BTS, the biggest boy band in the world, but this was one of his earlier high-profile collaborations as a featured artist on a Western pop song outside of BTS group activities. The collaboration brought together two artists from different musical backgrounds, different markets, and different industry contexts, and the fact that it was so successful both commercially and artistically demonstrated something important about both artists' talents and professionalism. When Charlie Puth talked about Jungkook surprising him, this comment came in the context of interviews and behind-the-scenes content around the release of Left and Right. Now, it's important to understand what Charlie Puth brings to the table as an artist and why his perspective matters. Charlie Puth is not just a performer, he's a classically trained musician who studied at the Berklee College of Music. He has perfect pitch, which is an extremely rare ability. He's known for his meticulous approach to production and songwriting, and he's worked with and learned from some of the best in the music industry. When someone with Charlie's level of musical knowledge, technical skill, and industry experience says that another artist surprised him, that's not a casual compliment, that's a significant professional acknowledgement that something exceeded his expectations, and those expectations were already quite high given that he chose to collaborate with Jungkook in the first place. So what specifically surprised Charlie Puth about working with Jungkook? Based on various interviews and statements Charlie made around this time, there were several aspects that stood out to him. First, he was surprised by Jungkook's vocal ability and technical skill. Now, you might think, why would this be surprising? Everyone knows Jungkook is an incredible vocalist. But you have to understand that there can sometimes be a perception gap, particularly among Western industry professionals who might not be as familiar with K-pop, where the assumption might be that K-pop idols are more about performance, choreography, and visual presentation rather than pure vocal talent. Charlie, coming from a background of technical vocal training and having worked with some of the best vocalists in Western pop music, was genuinely impressed by Jungkook's vocal control, his range, his ability to execute challenging vocal runs and techniques, and his overall musicality. This wasn't just, oh, he can sing well, this was recognition from one technical vocalist to another that Jungkook operates at a truly elite level vocally. Second, Charlie was surprised by Jungkook's professionalism and work ethic. Again, this might seem like something that shouldn't be surprising given BTS's well-known dedication and work ethic, but there's a difference between knowing something in theory and experiencing it directly in a working context. Charlie talked about how seriously Jungkook took the collaboration, how prepared he was, how many takes he was willing to do to get things exactly right, and how much creative input and ideas he brought to the table. In the music industry, there are unfortunately many stories of artists who show up unprepared, who don't take sessions seriously, who are difficult to work with, or who rely entirely on producers and engineers to make them sound good. Jungkook was the opposite of all of that. He came prepared, he was engaged in the creative process, he was professional in his interactions, and he demonstrated the kind of work ethic that serious musicians recognize and appreciate. For Charlie, who takes his craft seriously and puts enormous effort into his music, finding a collaborator who matches that level of dedication and professionalism was not just pleasant, it was genuinely surprising in the best possible way. Third, there was the element of musical chemistry and creative collaboration that surprised Charlie. Sometimes when artists collaborate, especially across language and cultural barriers, the process can be somewhat disconnected, with artists recording their parts separately, minimal direct interaction, and the producer essentially stitching together pieces that were created independently. But collaboration between Charlie and Jungkook wasn't like that. They worked together closely, they discussed creative ideas, they tried different approaches, and they built a genuine musical partnership for this song. Charlie was surprised by how natural this felt, how easily they could communicate musically even when language might be a barrier, and how Jungkook's musical instincts and ideas complemented his own vision for the song. This kind of genuine creative chemistry can't be manufactured, it either exists or it doesn't, and the fact that it existed between these two artists from very different backgrounds was both surprising and exciting for Charlie. There's also an important element of cultural context to consider in understanding Charlie's surprise. The Western music industry and the K-pop industry operate quite differently in many ways. K-pop idols go through years of intensive training in vocals, dance, performance, and even things like media training and language learning before they debut. This training system produces incredibly skilled and well-rounded performers, but it's not a system that most Western artists go through. Charlie Puth, despite his Berkeley education and professional training, came up through a more traditional Western path of developing as a solo artist, building a following, and gradually establishing himself in the industry. Encountering someone who had gone through the K-pop training system and seeing firsthand what that produces in terms of skill, discipline, and professionalism gave Charlie a new perspective and appreciation for a different approach to artist development. His surprise wasn't just about Jungkook as an individual, it was also about gaining respect for a whole system and approach to music that he might not have fully understood before working directly within it. The success of Left and Right itself serves as validation of Charlie's positive surprise about working with Jungkook. The song was a commercial success, charting well in multiple countries, performing strongly on streaming platforms, and receiving positive reception from both critics and fans. The music video, which featured both artists and showed their chemistry and the fun, lighthearted vibe of the collaboration, was viewed millions of times. From a purely business perspective, the collaboration achieved exactly what both artists and their teams would have hoped for, reaching both of their existing fanbases while also potentially introducing each artist to new listeners. The fact that the collaboration worked so well both creatively and commercially vindicated Charlie's decision to work with Jungkook and proved that his surprise at Jungkook's abilities was well-founded. It's also worth considering what this quote and this collaboration reveal about Jungkook's position in the global music industry. By 2022, BTS had already achieved unprecedented success globally, but there could still sometimes be questions about whether that success was primarily about the group as a whole, about their massive fanbase, about the K-pop phenomenon, or about the individual talents of the members. Charlie Puth's genuine surprise and respect for Jungkook's abilities, coming from someone with no particular reason to exaggerate or be dishonest about his experience, served as third-party validation that Jungkook's talents were real and would be recognized and appreciated by accomplished Western artists and industry professionals. This was important for Jungkook's individual credibility as an artist and helped pave the way for his subsequent solo success, including his own hit songs like 7 and 3D that would come later. The vocal dynamic between Charlie Puth and Jungkook on Left and Right is particularly interesting to analyze. Both are tenors with the ability to hit high notes with clarity and power, but they have distinctly different vocal tones and styles. Charlie's voice has a slightly more nasal, distinctive quality that's immediately recognizable, while Jungkook's voice has a clearer, more pure tone quality. On the song, these different vocal colors complement each other beautifully, creating interest and texture in the vocal arrangement. The harmonies they sing together blend well despite the tonal differences, and the call and response sections of the song showcase both voices to good effect. For Charlie, who is very particular about vocal production and arrangements, finding that his voice and Jungkook's voice worked together so naturally was likely part of what surprised and pleased him about the collaboration. There's also something to be said about the personal dynamic and friendship that developed between Charlie and Jungkook through this collaboration. Beyond just the professional respect, they seem to genuinely enjoy working together and to have developed a friendly rapport. This comes through in behind-the-scenes content, in their social media interactions around the release, and in how they talked about each other in interviews. Charlie's surprise about Jungkook wasn't just, "Oh, he's better than I expected," it was also, "Oh, this is someone I genuinely enjoy working with and would be happy to work with again." That personal connection is important because it makes the collaboration feel authentic rather than just a calculated business move, and audiences can sense that authenticity in the final product. Looking at this collaboration and Charlie's comments about it from the perspective of where Jungkook's career has gone since then makes it even more interesting. At the time of Left and Right in 2022, Jungkook's solo work was still somewhat limited, with most of his output being as part of BTS. Flash forward to 2023 and 2024, and we saw Jungkook release solo music that achieved massive global success, including 7 featuring Lada, which went to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making Jungkook the first Korean solo artist to achieve this in the chart's 65-year history. Looking back, we can see Left and Right as an important stepping stone in Jungkook's journey as a solo artist and as validation that he could hold his own in collaborations with established Western pop artists. Charlie Puth's surprise and respect for Jungkook's abilities was an early signal of what Jungkook would go on to achieve independently. It's also interesting to consider what this says about Charlie Puth's openness and ability to recognize talent across cultural and industry boundaries. Not every Western artist would have been as open to genuinely collaborating with a K-pop artist, really listening to their ideas, and allowing themselves to be surprised and impressed. Some artists might have approached such a collaboration with preconceptions or with a more hierarchical attitude. Charlie's willingness to approach Jungkook as a fellow artist and professional, to be open to being surprised, and to publicly acknowledge how impressed he was, speaks well of Charlie's character and his genuine love of music and talent regardless of where it comes from. This kind of openness is what enables the best cross-cultural collaborations to happen. The quote "surprised me" is also interesting linguistically and what it implies. Surprise requires expectations that are then exceeded or contradicted. For Charlie to be surprised means he had certain expectations going into the collaboration, and then his actual experience working with Jungkook exceeded those expectations in meaningful ways. This is different from just being impressed, which could happen even if someone meets your expectations. Surprise implies that something unexpected happened, and in this case, what was unexpected was discovering just how talented, professional, and musically sophisticated Jungkook is as an artist. The fact that Charlie chose to express this as surprise rather than just complimenting Jungkook shows genuine authenticity in his reaction. From a broader industry perspective, collaborations like Left and Right and the positive experiences that result from them help break down barriers and misconceptions between different parts of the global music industry. When respected Western artists like Charlie Puth work with K-pop artists and have genuinely positive experiences, they become advocates and ambassadors for those artists within Western industry circles. They can vouch for the talent and professionalism of these artists based on direct experience, which carries more weight than any amount of chart success or streaming numbers alone. Charlie's public statements about being surprised and impressed by Jungkook likely influenced other Western artists and producers to be more open to similar collaborations, creating opportunities not just for Jungkook but potentially for other K-pop artists as well. So guys, that's the full exploration of what Charlie Puth meant when he said Jungkook surprised me and why this quote matters. From Charlie being genuinely impressed by Jungkook's technical vocal abilities, discovering the level of professionalism and work ethic that comes from K-pop training, experiencing the natural musical chemistry that existed between them despite their different backgrounds, gaining respect for a different approach to artist development and music creation, the commercial and critical success of Left and Right that validated this collaboration, how this served as important third-party validation of Jungkook's individual talents from a respected Western artist, the complementary nature of their voices and how well they worked together vocally, the personal friendship and genuine rapport that developed beyond just professional respect, how this collaboration served as a stepping stone to Jungkook's subsequent massive solo success, Charlie's openness to being surprised and impressed across cultural boundaries, what the word surprised specifically implies about exceeded expectations, and how positive experiences like this help break down industry barriers and create more opportunities for cross-cultural collaboration. Charlie Puth's surprise about working with Jungkook represents so much more than just a nice compliment. It's a window into Jungkook's exceptional talents and professionalism, a validation of the K-pop training system, a demonstration of the power of genuine musical collaboration across cultures, and an important moment in Jungkook's journey as an artist. What do you think about this collaboration? Were you surprised by how well they worked together? Let me know in the comments. And if this deep dive into Charlie's quote helped you appreciate both artists more, please give this video a huge thumbs up, share it with fellow fans of either artist, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.